Welcome to the Education Today podcast, where we discuss all things education from preschool to college and career. I'm your host, Soko Shalanke. Let's jump right in. So welcome to today's show. Today's guest is a returning guest, Deborah Joseph. Thank you so much for joining us again.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right. So tell our guests, before we get started in today's topic, tell our guests a little bit about you, about what you do, about your family.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Deborah Joseph. I'm a returning guest of Soko's. It's just an honor to be here. I am about to be 43 next month and Haitian descent. So yes, sak passe tout le monde. Born and raised in New Jersey. Born and raised in New Jersey and moved to Florida when I was 15, and always had a passion for education. I actually wanted to be a teacher when I was growing up, but I was just like, my grades are not going to allow me to be a teacher, but I think I just had a heart just for the youth, and so I'm currently a office manager here at a local charter school here in the Hillsborough County, and I really love what I do. I love just the opportunity to be a model for not only just the students, but I just to interact with amazing staff, and get to be the opportunity to be a liaison between the students and the staff. And I also in the evenings am a paraprofessional. I help with ESOL. There's a large population of Haitians here in South Hillsborough, and so just to be able to have the opportunity to see Haitian students sign up for English and just to see that they're thriving, just coming from here to the States and have an opportunity to learn the language, being able to have job opportunities and be able to be a resource for their family here and back home. So overall, I am in education. I am in just community development, and I just love it.
That's cool. Yeah, I actually didn't know you worked for ESOL. I used to teach ESOL, not adults, but students. A great passion of mine, still is.
Yeah, I was actually so my first language is Haitian Creole, and I was actually, like I said, I was born and raised here. I was in ESOL till about 5th grade because I did not know English.
Oh, because in your home,
it just full circle to come back. I was only Creole.
Oh, okay.
Haitian Creole.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I've had a few students like that. Yeah. Mainly not Haitian Creole students, but students who were Spanish speakers who they were raised by, they stayed with grandma all the time, and so Spanish was their first language. So they're in ESOL in high school, even though where were you born? Were you born in Puerto Rico? No, I was born here. So
yeah, and it's like, what?
Yeah. But we are here today to talk about something really amazing that just happened in your life. And today's topic is something that is actually was near and dear to my mother's heart. My mother always said that one thing she loved about this country, about America, was the fact that when it comes to education, it's never too late. So she grew up in Sierra Leone, West Africa, and then she spent about 5 years in what was then the USSR. It's now Ukraine and Russia. She was in both of those countries. Then she spent just under 20 years in the UK before coming to America for the last 30 years of her life. And she always said she loved it here. It doesn't matter if you're 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. It's not too late to go back to school, to finish what you started and or to change your career. She just loved that about this country. And she loved to watch those graduations where an 80-year-old was walking across the stage. She thought that was amazing. So we're here today to talk about your educational journey, because something amazing just happened in your life. You want to tell us what it is?
Yeah, so after 16 years, I went back to school and decided to go for my bachelor's in educational studies, community leadership.
And you just finished that?
So, yep. I just graduated actually a month ago. Yeah, May 15th, a month ago.
Congratulations.
Yeah, today.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
I actually remember when you were in, I think, Hillsborough Community College many years ago.
That was in 2008. Yes.
Yeah.
2008. Yeah.
So tell us about this journey, this 16-year journey. Well, it's not really 16 years because I think it's been 16 years since you've been out of school, is what I'm thinking. So that means go back to the beginning and tell us how this journey started and how you got to where you are here. Because obviously there were some twists and turns along the ways, things that happen, life happens that make you stop and then eventually go back. So tell us about that journey.
Yeah. So I got my AA in 2008. And I think at that point I was just like, I didn't grow up and saying like, "Oh man, I knew what I wanted to
Hmm.
do, and I'm just going to pursue school." I think it was just something like, as a Haitian family, education is super important. Go to school, become something, And I think for me, although I knew I had the passion to become a teacher, and I know my grades, for me, believing that that wouldn't allow me, I was just kind of like, I don't know what I really want to do, And so, but I knew that I was passionate about
Yeah,
people. I knew I got excited about learning different cultures. I got a chance to be a part of a college ministry. I got to travel the world, got to learn from different countries on how to just do
yeah,
community development. So I knew I was passionate
yeah,
about that. I was passionate about the youth. So after coming back, 'cause I lived in Haiti, my husband and I, and our daughter at the time, she was one. We moved to Haiti and we were just doing some community development there. I knew when I came back for just some health complications when I found out I was pregnant with my second child, like, what am I going to do now?
yeah,
I wanted to make more money, and I just knew and felt like if door and opportunities are not opening up, I need to go back to
yeah,
school. So I think that was the thing. I was just like, I've had all this experience from traveling the world. What is to show
yeah,
for? And so it was like, I remember going down to St. Pete College, and I spoke to an advisor, and I was like, look, this is what I've done. I need a degree to kind of align and just give me credibility for the things that I've
yeah,
done. Because usually you go to school and you learn the experience and you go out into the
yeah,
field. I was like, I've been there. I
yeah,
went to the field. I need something. I need a piece of paper to show I've done
yeah.
that. And so they were like, oh, the way that you're speaking, it sounds like educational studies, community leadership is the best program for
Hmm.
you. And I just remember like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go back. I remember going to Raquel and saying like, I think I'm gonna go back
Your
to
husband.
school. And immediately he was like, yeah, my
Yeah.
husband. My husband Raquel was just like, what do we need to do for
Oh,
you to
wow.
do it? I got you.
Yeah.
Right. I just remember that. And I was nervous because I hadn't been in school in such since 2008, like I
Hmm.
said. Even the platform had changed. We were using something as chalk and wire. I was just like, what is this? I remember like logging in and just not, because I mean, I was used to
Yeah.
Scantron. I was used to like going on a campus, and it was just already different. So I just felt like I'm starting all over
Hmm.
again. And right now, at this point, I'm in my mid 30s. Who goes back to school in their mid 30s? And yeah, I have a 3-year old and a newborn,
Yeah.
and so I think it was just kind of like, Deborah, I think you're making a mistake. Forget it. Like, no, but I did. And I went back, and I remember going back, and I started with 2 classes,
No.
and I was driving to St.
Oh,
Pete,
wow.
2 days a week for those two
Hmm.
classes. Yeah. And then COVID hit, and I had to
Oh,
transition to all
oh,
online.
wow. Wow. I
Yep.
feel like I'm missing a part
Yep.
of the story. When 16 years ago, was it, or 18 years ago, why did you stop?
Yep. So I didn't know what I wanted to
Okay.
do. Right. I was like, okay, I got a liberal arts. I got an associate's in liberal arts, but I was like, what am I
Yeah.
gonna do with that? I couldn't like
Oh,
land on
okay.
something. I couldn't land on something, and part of it was just kind of I just didn't. I mean, a lot of times, you go back to school, you kind of know
Yeah.
what you want to do. And I was just like, I don't want to waste money. I really want to go into something that I'm really
Hmm.
passionate about. Right. And so I think I just even embarrassed to admit that, like, I did not know
Yeah.
what I wanted to do. Right. I just knew that I wanted to provide for my family. I want to do something that excites me. I want to do something where like I'm interacting with people on a daily, like, and part of it was just like youth development or just community development, like seeing an issue and realizing how to really empower the people in that community to do the thing that they're passionate about. I knew that, but what did that entail? What career goes alongside of that, right? And so I think I needed to know that for myself first. And so I was just kind of like, all right, let me just travel the world. Let me just learn from other people, learn from other
Hmm.
countries. A big part of it was I was in that ministry for that long
Yeah.
too. And so I was just kind of like, oh, maybe school's not for me. Let me just
Yeah.
focus on this thing. After leaving Haiti, I realized like, no, I need to go back.
Yeah.
I need the educational piece to align with the
Okay.
experience, because I felt like even with being in Haiti, like there was more that I can do for my Haitian people, and I think like going back was like, this is a better way to actually serve
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. That's good. So, sitting in the undergraduate classes in your late 30s and 40s, with I'm sure there are other people who are older there also, but there's probably a majority, I'm guessing, of younger students. What was
Yes.
that experience like? Do you become the elder statesman in the classroom? What is that experience like?
So I think in the beginning it was this thing of like, oh, I'm the oldest. There were classes that I was in, I was
Okay.
the oldest, right? And so you have 18-year-old,
Yeah.
19-year-old, and here I am approaching
Hmm.
40. There was a sense of just like I I'm so embarrassed,
Oh no.
you know? And yeah, I think part of it was just kind of like I could have been done
Oh,
already,
no.
right? So I had to get
Yeah.
through that, work through that. But I think the class and the students, even when we were having to do group projects, never made
Yeah.
me feel that way. It was sort of like, oh my gosh, you have
Yeah.
experience. Like I need to learn
Mhm.
from you. Like this is amazing. You're going back. Like, why did you go back? So it was just like this thing of just like I'm a mentor now,
Yes.
you know. And there were things that when we had to break down in groups, they were like, we want to be in Deborah's group, you know.
Wow.
And so that made me feel really confident. That made me feel encouraged. That made me feel like I had something to offer
Yeah.
to give back. So I think my experience of here I am in my head overthinking my age. And here I am with a group of students that are like, you're courageous. Like you have inspired us to like no matter what, we can go back, we can
Yeah.
continue on this journey, you
Yeah.
know. I was a sense of hope for them.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's why I was asking you if you became like an elder statesman. I was wondering if you like you
Yeah.
use the word mentor. That's what I was thinking. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
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 So,
Yeah.
life gets in the way of things we want to do. So, what were your challenges? I know you have kids, so that's definitely a challenge, and you're working as well. What were the challenges
Hmm.
that made the um, like? Because I'm guessing you did like just one or two classes at a time. You couldn't go full time because of life, you know. So,
Yes.
what challenges did you
Yeah.
face along this journey
Yeah.
the last few years? COVID, obviously.
Yeah. 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 So I think COVID was the biggest twist
Mhm.
for me because it was like now transitioning to online. So I'm a people person, like I mentioned. So I need to be
Yeah.
around people, right? And so as an extrovert, like you thrive off
Hmm.
of the energy of being with other people. That immediately stopped from a semester later to now
Yeah.
online. Like I am not around any people, right? So even if I had a question, who I'm going to ask, how I'm going to process out loud, so that for me was the biggest challenge was like, how do I continue with part-time, two classes at a time, just behind of a screen,
Hmm.
right? That I didn't know how
Yeah.
to do that. So that was one. Number two is that my kids are home with me, right? And they're
Yeah.
young, so they need that attention, right? So full-time mom, full-time wife, you know, and I'm part-time student and their needs while I'm trying to study and Raquel needs this, Aji needs this, and I want to be
Yeah.
available to them, you know? So there are times where I couldn't finish the assignment or I had to pause the assignment and it took me like a lot longer. Because again, I've been out of
Hmm.
school. So even trying to take notes and study, I had to
Yeah.
relearn a lot of
Yeah.
things, you know? So it just slowed me down in a sense. Not that it was bad, but it was just kind of like I need to relearn
Mhm.
all this. So that was number one. Number two is like, okay, we need income, you know? And so having to figure out like how to get a part-time job as well, because a lot was just on Raquel, you
Yeah.
know? And so I think the biggest for me was self worth. Can I do this? Can I actually put my mind and my energy to say, I'm going to go back to school? And if I'm taking two classes out at a time, this journey is
Hmm.
going to be
Yeah.
very long, you know? And so it was actually, I don't know if I gave the date, it was in the end of the fall semester of 2019 when I registered
Also,
to
right
go,
before
you know,
COVID.
and like I said, I've always thought right before COVID. That's what I'm trying to say. And so during COVID, two classes at a time, two classes at a time. It wasn't until last semester, actually fall of 23 that I went four
Oh, wow.
classes. And then spring, I
Yeah.
took four classes just to finish. Cause I was just like, if I continue with two classes at a time, I would be done in
Yeah.
2025, 2026. And I was just like, it just sounded like forever for me, you know? But I think the challenging was like, for me was self-worth. Like, Deborah, can you do it? You know? And I'll get into that a little bit more, but it's just like when you grow up and thinking that you're not going to amount to anything, you're not going to be able to achieve anything and to be inspired to do anything or be anything, I think that plays in your psyche for such a long time. And so the biggest challenge was like, uh, speaking to little Debbie, every single day and getting up and saying, you can do it. You can't, not only for
Mhm.
yourself, but for your two
Yeah.
children, your two beautiful daughters that are looking at you every day and seeing, mom, like, what are you doing? What are you studying? And being at COVID, I was actually doing my homework while Raquel's trying to do her homework. We were just like, we made it into a little game, like mom's studying too and doing her homework. And Aji's trying to learn her little ABCs. And I'm just trying to read through this paragraph
Yeah.
without getting distracted, you know? So, those were some of the
Yeah.
challenges, yeah, that
I
I faced.
remember teaching full time. doing my master's online, and my kids were still, they were still pretty young. I think I had two in elementary and one in middle school.
Yeah.
And I just remember feeling so guilty because that year, 2 years that I was in graduate school, and my husband was working full time, and I'm working full time too, and the kids have homework.
Mhm.
I remember feeling so guilty because my kids were eating ramen noodles because that's all I could do. I couldn't just be there for them the way I needed to, you know.
It was oatmeal and cereal. Yeah. Yeah, I
Thank
hear
God
you.
for cereal, ramen
I hear
noodles.
you.
Yeah, but I remember
Yes.
that was there was a
Yes.
lot going on. So you said those last, I think you said 2 semesters,
Yes.
you were doing 4 classes, but that's full time. So you were doing 4 classes, plus you were working
Yes.
a full time job and a part time job,
Full
and
time.
raising your family.
Yes.
Like, are you
Yes.
Superwoman?
And DJing on the
DJ,
side. And DJing on the side.
like how? How were you
Yes.
doing that? Tell me your secret.
I think it was it till this day I don't think I knew. I think it was the drive.
Oh.
So, you know, so Acts 2024 is like one of my
Mm-hmm.
favorite verses, right? And so I think there was something about the number 20 and 24. So, I was born July 20th, and I think for me was like, hey, I don't believe in numbers really like that. I don't believe it's like, oh, let's just be super deep because Deborah's always trying to be deep. I think for me, it was like, it was a point where I remembered that verse and I remember reading it. And I just remembered like 2024. I think this is the year that I'm going to
Oh, the
graduate.
year.
Right.
Okay.
And I remember like in order for me to do it, I spoke to my advisor. It would be like, I don't know, Deb, you've been taking 2 classes at a time. You would have to take a full load. And I remember looking at myself, I'm like, I'm going
Oh,
to do it.
wow.
I'm going to do it. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it. And I didn't think about the details of it, Soko. I was just kind of like, I'm just going to, whatever it takes, I want to be
Mhm.
done spring of
Wow.
2024. And so I kept my job, and I added 2 extra classes and an
Wow.
internship. And I remember the opportunity. I remember my friend Adrian was like, Deborah, there's a large population of Haitians that are in South Hillsborough. We need your help. Can you do it? And I've been avoiding him for years. And I just remembered, like, you know what? Why
Yeah.
not? Who does that? So I go, who in their last semester adds a part time job to already a full time job, full time mom, the whole 9 yards? So I think I'm crazy. I don't know what it is, but I did it and I enjoyed it. I loved it. The faces of when these students would walk in and for me to greet them in Haitian Creole, Kijonye, bonsoir, and their face
Wow.
light up. And they went and tell others
Yeah.
registered to just like learn English because they're like, there's a Haitian woman working in there, and I did my homework
Mhm.
sometimes. So part of it was just like, I just took my homework with me.
Um,
So it's like, if I was at home studying, I just like finish my homework and my class is like
okay.
there. So I would work and I would work on homework
Oh,
as well. So if they're watching now, you knew that I worked on homework during
yeah.
as a parent.
That's very
Yeah.
cool.
I think there was the drive of like, I need to be
Mhm.
done. I need to be done. My kids were like, even when Raquel, there was things that she was struggling with, whether academically or just her wanting to participate in cheer. And she was like, Mom, I give up. I don't want to do it. And I remember like, she's like, Mom, I couldn't do it because I see
Mhm.
you doing it. My kids in the middle of the night. So if Aji would wake up and from a night terror and she would see me in the living room studying and she was like, Mom, you're still studying. And I just saw her face and she would come and give me a hug and she would crawl in my bed. And I remember like through those nights in tears, like for them,
Mhm.
for me, look myself in the eye and say like, hey, Deb, they said you couldn't do it. You're going to tell them that you can do it. Um, and I did it and I'm still
That's
doing it.
awesome. That's amazing. So you kind of already alluded to my next point, which was I was going to ask like, who or what was your motivation? Like, who or what was your why? It sounds like it might be your daughters and you also.
Yeah. So first was me. I think for me, I kind of mentioned that like you growing up thinking that you're not enough or you're never going to amount to anything. And I remembered feeling, I think it was this semester that I was always
Hmm.
enough. Like I was always
Hmm.
enough. So it wasn't this thing of like getting this degree is going to make me enough. Like, I define this degree. This piece of paper does not define me. I define it, right? So for me, it was just like it took me 40 something years for me to realize like, Deb, you were born
Hmm.
enough. So it's not all these accolades that you gain and stuff like that. So that was number one. Number two, I think it was my girls. So my girls for me was my source of inspiration, motivation. So no matter what they decide to do or don't do, they could look back and say like, my mom
Hmm.
went back and she did it. I think kind of like what you're saying with mommy. Like mommy was just kind of like, "Oh, we're in the States. Like you can always go back." No one to say like, I think it's average is like you go to middle school, you go to high school, and right after you go to
Mhm.
college, and if you decide to go for your master's or there's this thing that every 4 years you complete this thing. But everyone's journey
Yeah,
is different, right? Because life throws different things at you, you know. And so
that keeps
I
life.
realized for me it was this thing of like, Deb, you life was life. I can't compare myself to my friend. I was like in my best friends group. All of them have gotten their bachelors, and even some of them has gotten
Mhm.
their masters. And I used to always be the one that at the end was like, I don't have mines yet, you know. So now I'm like, I'm definitely in, girls. Like here, Deb got their bachelors now, and they all
Yeah,
came down, you know, for me to celebrate this moment for me. But it's just kind of like I had to embrace and accept that this is your journey, Deb, right? And you finished the time that you thought it was best for you and your
mhm.
family, right? This is my own story. I'm the narrator of my own
Yeah.
story, you know? And so my girls and myself was my motivation, and my
Mhm.
community, like my Haitian community was just like, we can do this, guys, no matter what obstacles that face our way. Like we're a resilient people. We're in a resilient nation. And so we got this. We can
Yeah.
do it.
What's interesting is I remember it's like I didn't realize I've been following your journey all these years. I remember being at your graduation at HCC. Maybe I'm wrong, but I remember
Yes.
being there. But I also remember being at a graduation. You must have done some kind of course in like biblical counseling or something. It was at that
Yes, from
ceremony.
Life University.
I went to
Yeah.
that
Yes.
ceremony.
Loco, you remember. Yes,
Because it was not
yes.
too far from where I
Yeah.
live now. It
Yep.
was like in this county.
Yeah. I got some I went and got a certificate for just doing some counseling through like church, life
Okay.
coaching and stuff like that.
And I
Yeah.
remember just being really inspired and thinking, I
Yep.
want to do that. That was so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, you do remember that was in there. I don't remember what year that was, but that was in the
Yeah,
16 years. You know, add
that
that
was a
in there
long time
too.
ago. So you went back to
Yeah.
school. You had the road was winding because of COVID and life was lifing and you had kids and you had to work. Then you bolstered up, ramped up the number of courses you were taking so you could finish in Acts 2024. And then you finally made it. What was it like to walk across that stage?
So I started like I'm on social media, but not as much as like I don't even know how to do social media. So I'm just on it just to be on it, right? So I decided to start this countdown at day
Mm-hmm.
29, right? Random odd number or whatever. So I was like, I'm gonna count down to May 15th, right? And so I think each day, I think because it started where I got my sash, right? I end up ordering the Haiti sash and I ordered some cords and I was like, I'm gonna record this journey so I can build myself up to like what am I gonna
Mm-hmm.
do that day, you know? And so from 29 all the way down to the last day, you know. And so I think I kept on envisioning like this has been a long time ahead. Am I gonna walk? Am I gonna skip? Am I gonna dance? Like I was just kind of like, here you have 3.4 seconds of fame. What is it gonna be? You know, I think I was still, and I ended up getting a cold that week, right? So I was not even feeling well or whatever. I think for me it was the like, Deborah, is it true that all the hard work, the blood, sweat, and tears, the sleepless nights, the I can't hang out with my friends the way that I want to, is it finally
Mm-hmm.
here? You know, I remember getting up that morning. I was super, super sick. Still went sitting there. I remember seeing the banner for education. I still didn't believe it, Soko. I still did not believe it. Right. I sat there, you know, and my friends came. They flew down. You know, from friends in New Jersey to friends in Maryland, you know, they're waving and all. I still didn't believe it. I think it's when the other professors, said it was time for the education department to
Mm-hmm.
stand up. And Soko, I think it finally hit me like, that's the department I'm in. That, they're about to call me, you know? And I stood there and I walked and I remember like shaking, right? And you get there, you take a picture and I hand in my card and I wrote on my card, oh, I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. I wrote on my card 16 years
Oh
later.
wow.
And the guy that was about to announce my name, he was like, 16 years later? He's like, oh my gosh, you did it. You're here. I think that's when
Yeah.
it hit me. So it hit me where like, I'm here. I'm about to walk across the stage. And I chatted with him a little bit. He said my name, and I remember just my hands just going up, just one in awe. And then two, my girls are
Yeah.
watching me. They're like, Mom, she told me, she's like, Mom, I screamed, that's my mama on that stage. That's my mama,
Oh,
and Raquel's like, you did it, mommy. I knew you could always do it. And I talked to the president for a little bit. We were just chatting. This is a whole time that's just happening. It's like, Deborah, get your degree and walk over. But I did it, Soka.
that's cool.
I did it. I was enough. I will always be enough. My girls know they're enough. They will always be enough. And I got my
Yeah.
bachelor's 16
Yeah.
years
What do you
later.
think this moment meant for your husband and your kids?
I just wonder if I was a source of
Yeah.
hope for them, a source of inspiration, a source of motivation of just like, man, and mom, we barely saw mom the 32 weeks. My kids barely saw me. Like I told you, they were on some cereal and oatmeal, and Rigel made spaghetti a lot. And so he really took the bulk of like really caring for them because it just was a lot. And I think for him, it was just like, no one
Yeah.
could stop you. Whatever you set your mind to, you can do it. And my girls were just like I told you, Raquel did it. I didn't think she could do cheer just because she got in
Hmm.
mid semester, and she looked me in the eye and she was like, Mom, did you teach me that I
Yeah.
can do it? Trying to make cheer competitions, like trying to still
Yeah.
be active. The kids had award shows and
It's a
all
lot.
this kind of stuff, and they were in this and this and that, still trying to squeeze that in there. Sometimes I would show up, and then my laptop would be right there with me in the car, trying to submit that assignment. So it was juggling a lot at the same time. And so I think for them, I think it was like, Mom, you can do it. And I think even if I didn't believe I could do it, like
Yeah.
looking at them and the way that they gaze into my eyes made me believe like
Yeah.
I can do it.
It's
I did
awesome.
it. I'm
And
still
kudos
doing
to
it.
your husband because I think what stops a lot of women, I mean, not that they don't do it, but I think what hinders a lot of women and makes it harder is not having a supportive husband or partner, you know. But
Yeah.
if you, and I know a lot of African women who
Yeah.
have husbands, but they're not supportive and they wouldn't support them through that. And in fact, I
Yeah.
know some who would even
Yeah.
make it difficult.
Yeah.
That's terrible, isn't it? But it's true. Uh,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah. He was very supportive. He was like my number one
yeah,
cheerleader, like
so
from get go. There are times where I barely saw Rigel. There are times Rigel was helping me. I was like, Rigel, look, I have 3 chapters to study, and I have to take a quiz. Can you take chapter 11 and I'll do 12? And literally, I was like, I need your help. I
yeah,
need your help here. Like, I mean, yeah, it was a family thing. I think we all
yeah,
got that degree. The whole
yeah.
Joseph family got
So
that degree.
kudos to him. That's a great man. So I remember
Yeah.
when we were at your luncheon after the graduation that you were showing a video that your principal had recorded, like congratulating you, and then you were saying that in the school they'd streamed the graduation. It's like I've worked in schools and I had many principals. This is not something. I mean, this was a big deal for your school. I love that the staff and even your
Yeah. Yeah.
principal was so enamored and really what's the word I'm thinking of? They were celebrating with you. You know, I've never seen that before. Not that it would never happen, but this was like a different experience for me.
Yeah.
Tell me about
Yeah.
your school's response and your
Yeah.
principal's response.
Um, So I love the school that I work at. And I think part of it is that, a lot of times people want to just big up their school and just like it's the
Hmm.
best school ever, it's perfect and all this kind of stuff. And who wouldn't want to say that? I love my school because we're super transparent. I think that if there's an area where they need to grow, they will sit down and figure out like how
Hmm.
do we do this better? How do we make this better for the students that we serve, for the parents around the community? So I love the transparent aspect of just like I work at a school that we're just not going to only just take the critiques and sit in there, but we're going to come up with solutions for that. So that is for me the one. But they're super supportive. I think from day one when I got hired is like, Deb, like you have a place at this table. Recreate it, read it, whatever you think is best, let's do it. So I've always loved the support that they've given me. So they knew that I was going back to school the moment that they hired me. And so they were with me in that journey, my front office team, other staff members. So I love the fact that they were like counting down with me, right? What I did not know was that they were actually going to watch it that day. Sent a few of my friends the link. So From Office was streaming it. I had one of my subs, Joanne, streaming from the art room. They were watching it from the
Wow.
NPR room. They were watching it in their offices. So the whole school was watching it. Kids were excited, right? And so they had sent me videos of when I'm about to walk across the stage, and you would see these students are like, "That's Miss Joseph, that's Miss Deborah." And so I'm in tears at this point because I had no idea that they literally had the whole school
Yeah.
like watch it. Like, so for me, it was just kind of like, what? So I was so like in shock about it, and they did. And so for me, I felt the love. I was just like, I don't work at somewhere where like you clock in, you clock out,
Hmm.
they don't know you. Like my whole team was supporting me, rooting for me, celebrating me. It was just kind of like, Deb, you did, because they saw I came to work every single day. On my break time, I'm trying to squeeze in an assignment
Hmm.
in, and so I felt super loved, super supported. Like I felt like super celebrated. And my assistant principal came to my luncheon. My principal couldn't make it, but he
I
sends me
see.
a video of congratulating me at the right time. Yeah, it was just like I just felt super loved by everyone from like I said, from parents were like had
Wow.
heard of it, were texting me like, "Oh my gosh, Miss Joseph, we're super excited." And so it was really a community thing, like from home life to where you work, like it was a big deal. And I think for me, again, because I don't think of myself that way, so I think for me it was a humbling experience of like, Deb, you're loved, you're valued, like embrace the celebration, and that
Yeah.
just blew my mind.
The only thing I've ever seen close to that in the schools I've worked at was when Obama was being inaugurated the first time, and the school streamed it in the auditorium. So that's why, to me,
Oh, I'm on that Obama level. I'm on that Obama level. I
that's the
love
only
it.
thing.
We did watch. Yes,
That's
yes,
really
yes,
special
yes,
for the principal to record a message and for
yes.
the school to stream it,
Yeah,
and for you to get messages from the parents. That's so
yeah.
special. You know, that means that
Thank you.
you've
Yeah.
inspired a lot of them also. The students and some of the adults too. That's
Mm,
really cool. It's very
yeah.
special.
Thank
So
you.
what's next for you?
So I'm still at my current job, as a
Mhm.
front office manager, and I love it. I'm here. We're actually in transition of getting a new principal, and I'm really excited about it. He's a black male, so I'm really excited about that. We are transitioning,
Yeah.
to something new. We have new front office staff, and I think it's time for change, for diversity. I love it. Newness, so I'm really excited about that. But I think I'm looking for like, hey, what, when you ask the question like what now, is like, Deb, what actually, what
Mhm.
do you love? Like, so from the transition from getting your AA, it was like, I don't know what I want to do, right? To now we're like, I want to be about
Mhm.
advocacy. That's still a passion of mine. I want, especially I think where the demographics of, we have a large populations of Haitians that are in the Hillsborough County. What kind of advocacy work can I be doing
Yeah.
for them? So whether it's like, do I find somewhere in the nonprofit
Mhm.
world again, or do I stay in education, but more so of like trying to do student
Yeah.
services or peer mediation? Like, for a long time, even in this transition, I was doing girl young black girls mentorship
Yeah.
program with Mama Africana, and that was amazing because I got to
Mhm.
be what I needed. So every young girl needs a mentor, and so do I go into that, do I go into mentorship? So I think right now it's the idea of like, I have options, you know and hoping that I land
Mhm.
on something, and so I know that I don't want to be in the classroom. Not saying there's anything wrong with being in the
It's not
class.
for
Kudos
everyone.
to those that are in the classroom. I love it. It's not for everyone. And I think my personality for me is on that
Yeah.
one-on-one, in that group
Mhm.
setting, because I was that kid that was constantly getting in trouble or constantly needed reinforcement and just reassurance of like, I think I mentioned it on my journey, like my seventh grade year, like my favorite teacher is Miss Claret. And, I was
Mhm.
retained that year. Miss Carrot looked me in the eye and said, Deb, this retention does not define you,
It's good.
right? So
Yeah.
you can do it. You can do whatever you set your mind to
Mhm.
into doing. And I remember pushing myself. I had an opportunity to take a semester, and they said, if it takes you one quarter, if you could raise up all your grades, we'll move you back up
Okay.
to the eighth grade. And I did it, right? Because it took one
Yeah.
person looking me in the eye and say that you could do it, right? So I think Soko, in everything that I do, I want to
Yeah.
be that person that I always needed, right? So for my girls, I get to be the mom that I always needed. So as a front office manager, I get to be the manager that I always wanted. You know what I'm saying? And so I love that. So I wherever I think I'm at, whatever setting, definitely I want to work with people. Is the sky's the
Yeah.
limit for me now. Where I think it so one I want to train, I want to learn new things, but I want to continue doing the DJing on the side because I love to bring entertainment, but obviously to see
Yeah.
joy in people's face, you know. So I think for me, I want to stay in that youth development. I want to stay in working with children, so it could be in the building, in the school building, or outside the school building, you know. But right now I think I'm there because I'm like I need to make money, you know, because I want to make, especially everything's going high, and I want to stay growing and
Mhm.
learning, and so seeing whatever new opportunities. I know it's general because I haven't like pinpoint on exactly what it is, but I think like I want to put myself out there and just say like, even if it's as life to be a life coach or a motivational speaker of just like those that are feeling, especially in that if they stop school and that they feel like they couldn't go back or don't want to go back, or what's the point of going back? I could just be like,
Mhm.
I went back, and let me tell you, you know, and that you have your own story and your own journey. What is it for
Yeah.
you? You know,
Speaking of,
I hope that
yes, it
answers your
does. And
question.
speaking of advocacy for the Haitian community, that little part-time job that you have as a paraprofessional, didn't you recently get some kind of award or certificate for that job?
I did. It was like the spotlight award of coming in and just really being a model and a tool of just really helping already. Like it was so crazy because again, shock. Again, I get shocked by these things because I go in and thinking like, oh yeah, it's just I'm just you know helping being the liaison and
Yeah.
the coordinator for the Haitian students, and then my administrator sees it as
Yeah.
different, you know. And so yeah, they highlighted me on really being a big part of the community
That's
that's growing
amazing.
down there. So
Congratulations.
yeah,
That's awesome.
thanks, Soko. You really follow me. You really do.
Now, don't make
I
me sound like a
appreciate that,
stalker.
sis. No, 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 no. What I'm saying is that you're reminding me of certain
Yeah.
places. I mean, we've known each other for a very long time, but you're reminding me of key moments that
Yeah.
maybe I've forgotten that you have witnessed, and I think that that's a gift
Yeah.
in itself. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you also. So just to close, you kind of spotlight, you kind of said it a little bit, but I just wanted to highlight it more. Um, there's a woman out there. It doesn't even have to be a woman. It could be a young man, or it could be a man, or whatever. They they are thinking about going back. They think it's too late. Life is getting in the way. They kind of given up. Um, they just feel like it's too late for them. What is your advice to them?
Mm, I think to start off with, like, why do you feel like
Mm,
it's too late? Why do you feel like you have to give up? Right? Because we gotta ask ourselves that question first. Like we need to do an internal look and a moment of reflection and just saying why. I think for me, I needed to
mm,
start with that. But I think it's like once you figure it out,
mhm.
that's your why, right? So for me, it's like, is it too late? You know, is it gonna take longer? Yes. Are you gonna have to put work into it? Definitely, you know, but it is
Yeah.
never too late, right? And again, this if it's going the route of going to school, that paper, you know, that degree
Mhm.
does not define them. They do because it's
Yeah.
what they do with it. You know, what doors now and opportunities that's going to open up for them. And so I'm like, let's go. That's been my whole phrase throughout this journey is like,
Mhm.
let's go. So if it's like there are moments, so called, I do not want to get up out of bed. They not even want to pull the cover over out of bed. As much as like I'm a preferred person and I'm
Yeah.
always at a 10, I struggled sometimes to pull the blanket off. But it was like, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's pull that cover off. Let's get dressed. Let's get everyone started. Let's
Mhm.
hit reset, you know? Because there were moments where I was just like, if I got a C or B, I'm like, let's do it. Let's resubmit that assignment. Let's go. And so for that person, you know, for you,
Yeah.
let's go. You got exactly what it takes
Yeah.
to do it. And I believe in you, believe in yourself, get a community around you, get your village around you, and let's just go, right? Because my village came down miles to say, Deborah, we're gonna see you walk across
Yeah.
that stage because we've been with you through the journey, right? And so it's a general statement. Who doesn't say you can do it? And it's just words, it's just phrases. But when you look yourself in the eye in the mirror and look and say, like, what all the obstacles and all the challenges, all like the years that it might take, at the end of the day, you're
Hmm.
doing it for you, and find that group of people where you're like, who you're doing it for. And for me, it was for
Yeah.
myself and my girls and my
That's good.
family.
That's good. Let's
So let's
go.
go.
Let's go. As you were speaking, I was
Nale.
I was reminded of I have my godmother, Regina Oyakoya. You know her, right? Yeah. I once heard her give an advice to a young woman
Grandma.
she was telling the young woman, go and get your BSN in nursing. And the young lady was saying, that's going to take me 2 years. It's going to take 2 years. It's going to take 2 years. She said, whether you go back or not, 2 years is going to go by. The 2 years is still going to go by anyway. So you can go back during those 2 years or you can not. But either way, 2 years is going to go by. And I was like, that's true. That is
2 years.
so true.
2 years doesn't change
That's true.
yet.
So let's go, right?
Yep.
Let's do it.
Yes, let's go. Let's
Yeah,
do it.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Let's
But
do
Deborah
it.
Joseph, congratulations again. And thank you so much for coming
Thank
on
you.
to tell us all
Thank
about
you.
your journey. You're such an inspiration to me and to many others also.
Yes, I really appreciate it, Soko. Thank you for like inviting me. Like I said, you came to my luncheon, you came to my graduation party. I think your family has been, another great support system for me. Like your sister Evie, Oma, like it's just been amazing. Mommy, I remember I actually went to go visit Mommy's gravesite the day
Yeah.
before my graduation because I think like her saying,
Hmm.
I'm proud of you. Mommy's has always been like rooting for me since day
Hmm.
one, since she met me. And so to hear her, say, you go girl, and to say that she's she's proud of me, and so it was a joy to be with Evie, Steph, and Romy and Labria, and to have that moment. But like your family has always had my back, and so it is a joy and honor for you to be in this platform doing this, really bigging up education, especially in our diverse community, is huge. And so I'm humbled that you invited me to speak on a topic that's been so dear to me. And so
Yeah.
I
Thank you
thank you.
so much, Deborah.
You got me all emotional. Stop it.
Thank you. All right.
Okay,
So thank you so much, Deborah.
of course.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Education Today. If you enjoyed the show, please hit the subscribe button and consider leaving a review on whichever platform you are listening. You can email any questions or comments about the show to edtodaypodcast@gmail.com. And you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Soko_Writes. That's SOHKOR_Writes. This podcast is listener supported, so if you are able to make a donation, check out the show notes for ways in which you can give. See you next time, and thank you again for listening.